Welcome to the Early Wedge presented by BetMGM. I am your host, EC. We have an awesome show on tap for you tonight. We're going to talk about the Memorial Tournament, which is one of the big ones. We have an awesome 3-week stretch of golf. We got some live golf going on here. US Open next week. Very exciting. But if you are new to the stream, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the SportsLine YouTube page because so much fun stuff is going on, including with a member of the show who happens to be the host of the Early Edge every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Let's bring in the stars of the show because I certainly am not one of them. Let's talk to one, Sia Nejad. You can see him every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. And one, the golf genius, as I like to call him, who has one of the most entertaining Twitter feeds, X feeds, whatever you call it, out there. One, Patrick McDonald at PMcDonaldCBS. And then, of course, at Sia Nejad on Twitter. All right, Sia, I'm going to start with you. Give me your thoughts on David Skins. How do you feel about him this week?
Oh, my gosh. I'm so upset. I mean, you know, the thing is the coverage had stopped. Of course, if you're not knowing what we're talking about, we had Burns first round leader at 40-1. It looked like it was going to be a split with Sean O'Hare. And then it looked like it was going to be a 3-way split with David Skins, which for the record, 13-1, even if you put a small amount on it, is still nothing to sneeze at. So when Skins went on the run on his back nine in the first round, like the beginning of his back nine, it was like 3 birdies in a row or something like that. I'm like, all right, well, this is a problem now, but I think my worst case scenario is a 3-way split as opposed to him catching him. Cause I just didn't think he was going to birdie one of the last couple of holes. And lo and behold, it looked like I was right because he put it to 47 feet and 8 inches.
You're good. Yeah, you're good.
Hole.
Yep.
And it's like, all right, like we got a shot that he might 3-putt this thing. I don't know. Like, I know he's a great putter, but like, this is certainly not a birdie. It's either a par or if I get lucky, it's a bogey. And I'm watching it on my shot tracker because the coverage had just ended. And I didn't even like look at the shot by shot because I was waiting for him to graduate to the next hole. And then all of a sudden I see -8 and I'm like, that doesn't even seem possible. And then, of course, I go to the shot tracker and he drains the 47-footer. Those are the types of things that like really make you and all like the rant isn't over. I had a couple round matchups where I had my tournament matchups have been good for the last 2 weeks, but I had a couple round matchups where I had like a 4-shot lead and it evaporated in like 3 holes. So it's been a trying emotionally. It's been a trying couple of weeks in the PGA world.
Yeah, this is where you want to like quit betting for a while, but at the same time, you also want to get right back on the wagon. As I always say, you just got to keep firing, right? Like you have the bad beats. I say, you know, almost. So, I mean, that is the ultimate almost, Sia. That is as bad as it gets. Now, Patrick, on another hand, I know this is a week away, but yesterday was what they call the longest day in golf with the US Open qualifying. And there were some interesting players that did not make it in. And some that did. I believe your boy Grayson Sigg got in, but one Joaquin Niemann did not. And yet he's still on the board on some books at plus 2,800. So don't bet him. Any thoughts on what you saw yesterday with the US Open qualifying?
I believe Grayson Sigg got in. I'm surprised the USGA didn't give him a special exemption. Right. They made him go through the longest day in golf. The disrespect, it's unbelievable. Joaquin Niemann not making it's obviously a disappointment just all around. He's a great player. Would have loved to see him in a championship. Unfortunately, not going to happen. Dean Burmeister made it. Daniel Berger flashed a little for him too down at the Bears Club. Adam Scott, although he did not make it, also one of my guys, he still has a chance to get in. So the 92 major streak, 91 majors in a row, not dead yet. I'm crossing my fingers that he can get in through OWGR or he's one of the higher alternates in the field. But yeah, it's always a fun day in golf to see the storylines and some of the journeymen, amateurs, kids, guys you totally forgot about get through and get to play in the US Open.
You know, I already have a premonition that next week, assuming that Grayson is in the field, I know what the DFS section is going to look like for you. So I'll be I mean, we already know what yours is going to say. I mean, Grayson's going to be like 6,000. So for sure, 100%. Yeah, he'll be on there.
He's going to be like $3.
Sia, you'll provide the drama at next week's DFS section. But let's start with storylines for the Memorial. And Sia, I'm not sure, like, I know where you're going here about Scottie Scheffler, but does this mean he's a lock this week, in your opinion?
Ooh, that is actually like a good question, because the fact that that's even a question that's not rhetorical in golf is really saying something, because he's been on a tear. And if you know what he did last year, and Patrick, I'm sure you've spoken to this on the first cut, he was awful with the putter at this event last year, like awful, like hideous. And he still finished T3. And he's in better form now than he was then, arguably. And even if you don't buy that argument from a tee to green standpoint, you can certainly sell that argument from a putting standpoint. So my storyline is, again, back to Scottie Scheffler, kind of destroying the outright market. Good news, like all of these sports books are now, I shouldn't say all, most of them are basically offering the without Scottie Scheffler market. Some are offering the without Scottie, Rory, and Xander market. And frankly, those odds aren't terrible. So I think this is a storyline where it's like, I'm gonna mess around a little bit with Scottie Scheffler in terms of betting other outrights, but I think the without Scottie Scheffler market is primed for this week, maybe next week as well, but definitely this week, in my opinion.
So I saw a stat, Patrick, about Scottie Scheffler and Denny McCarthy, that last year in this tournament, Denny beat Scottie by one shot, but had gained 20 more strokes with the putter than Scottie did at Muirfield Village. I mean, that is mind-boggling to think about, that one player gains 20 more shots than the other with a putter and only wins by a shot. So you say make amends. Scottie needs to make amends for what? His putter, I guess, right?
Well, on the flip side of that, Scottie Scheffler gained nearly 21 strokes from tee to green, which is why Denny McCarthy was able to do that with the putter. And that's why the margin between them was only the single stroke. For context, Siwoo Kim had a great tournament last year. He gained 12 strokes from tee to green, second in the field. Scheffler clipped him by 2 strokes a round in that category. That is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. EC, I know you always say, oh, Patrick and Snake could have been out there competing with those guys. Honestly, you might have been able to putt better than Scottie Scheffler last year.
Michael Block could have.
Michael Block, your main man. Sure.
I mean, yeah.
If he had Scottie's tee to green game, who knows where he'd be? And so, like Sia said, he's gained in 7 straight tournaments. Ever since he's put in that new putter in the bag, he's gained putting every single week. He's not going to gain 21 strokes tee to green this week. If he does, God bless him. Maybe something in the 15 range, but that's probably going to be enough to win this golf tournament. So I think Sia's head on where, the without Scottie market could be the smart move. Although, spoiler, I'm not doing that.
No, you were not. I did look ahead in the cheat sheet. Now you're taking some chances. All right. So I was trying to go a whole episode without mentioning Michael Block. We already failed. We'll give that a shot next week for the U.S. Open. My storyline is, will anything that happens this weekend in Ohio or Houston affect your U.S. Open outright bets? My answer is not really, which is kind of a non-answer in that I just want to see the health of Hideki Matsuyama and Ludwig Åberg. Those are 2 guys that I would consider betting that are not on my outright bets for next week thus far. Now, guys, Sia, I'll start with you. One player that you're already looking forward to next week at the U.S. Open. Give me somebody that you're probably going to bet.
Well, interesting piece of news before I answer that question. When you look at the odds, we're going to talk about Will Zalatoris in a second. I just want everybody to know this. I mean, interpret it however you want. He's 75 to 1. On FanDuel, he's 75 to 1. At BetMGM and DraftKings, Will Zalatoris for this tournament at Muirfield is like 60 to 1. So he's somewhere between 60 and 75 to 1. Next week at the U.S. Open, his odds largely are in the 25 to 1 range, which I just find like very, very strange. We'll talk about Will Zalatoris a little bit more later, but I wanted to point that out. Listen, Ludwig is really interesting. I think if he starts the tournament out kind of hot and we're like, oh, this knee issue isn't a big deal, there's no rust, like he clearly has been playing, I think he's really live, and I think his odds have now sunk to around 20 to 1 next week. Guys like Ludwig and Victor Hovland, I've got a close eye on.
Okay, fair enough. Patrick, how about you? Who are you adding, or who would you bet right now for next week?
Justin Thomas at 46 to 1 on FanDuel has my eye. Cameron Smith at 36 to 1 at FanDuel has my eye. And then a name that you actually just mentioned, I'm very keen on potentially, is Hideki Matsuyama. Just what's going on with him at Pinehurst. You're going to have to scramble your butt off. And like I say, he is the best around the green player in the game. So he certainly has my interest if he does anything today or this week.
Okay. So I guess we'll see. Yeah. We'll see if he can play injury-free golf at the Memorial. For me, I'm looking at live guys, Bryson and Brooks. Brooks finished T4 at Pinehurst in 2014. I think that live needs, for their sake, probably need to win a major. And this is as good as any, the way Bryson is playing. We'll talk about them later in the program. But let's get into DFS picks. Unfortunately, Grayson Sigg is not in the field. But so, Sia, we're going to start with you in that regard. You're going to fade a guy that I'm going to talk about later in the show that has won here twice in the last, 5 years? Why are you anti-Patrick Cantlay, even though he's on my do not bet list?
He has won twice in the last 5 years, but in 2021, when he won, let's be honest, he was second place, which is still amazing. Don't get me wrong. But that, for everybody that doesn't recall, that's when John Rahm caught COVID conveniently, like Saturday evening going into Sunday, or maybe it was Sunday morning. He was like a billion shots up, and then it became a playoff ultimately between Morikawa and Cantlay. But listen, Cantlay's a great course fit. I think that's the point you're making, and he's got great course history. The other point you're making, the problem is when the play is so substandard, like basically for this entire year, I can't just bring course history into it and be like, all right, this trumps everything. I think if we had seen some progression in his game, and I guess you could make the argument when you're looking at the metrics that we've seen that, but I don't see it enough. And I think because of his history, he's going to get enough ownership. I'm not saying he's going to be super popular because he's not, but at 9,400, it's a really nice price for somebody who's won here twice in the last 4 years or 5 years. No, it's twice in the last 4 years. I just think I'm going to avoid that because he's been so pedestrian lately. And again, I think he's going to catch enough ownership in DFS where I'm just happy to avoid him. The guys I'm on, listen, I'll be very honest. If you followed my DFS picks last week, the 3 that I gave out, I only remember 2 of them. 2 of them were Davis Thompson and Henrik Norlander. Not a good scene. And so I'm kind of doing the same thing here in a sense. I'm just going for upside. And I'm willing to take the floor because it's DFS. I think Will Zalatoris is really interesting. He's been really bad with the short game, but the ball striking, with a couple of exceptions lately, off the tee, it hasn't really been great. Approach has been a little spotty here and there, but overall the ball striking is pretty good. It's the putter that's been a problem for him, but we know the putter's okay with him long-term. I just think Will Zalatoris' ceiling is really high here. And at 7,500 and at 75 to 1 to win outright, I think given that he's had 3 weeks off, I think you can draw the conclusion if you want to, that maybe in the last 3 weeks, the few things he's needed to correct, he has corrected. So I like him at 7,500. Lucas Glover, good ball striker, accurate off the tee, looking for all of those things in this tournament. His track record here is very, very average. He's making cuts, but barely doing anything with it. But I do like the state of his game right now, and I'll take him at 7,000. Lee Hodges, I don't think we need to talk much about him. He's been near the tops of leaderboards over the last few weeks, and he's doing it with accuracy off the tee, and he's doing it with the approach play. He's probably going to be kind of a chalky play in that 6K range, but I think he's probably worth taking because I think he has tremendous upside.
I actually am going to mention Lee Hodges later in the program, so I like seeing that on your list. Now, one guy that I do not like seeing on a list here, Patrick, you're fading. Sia's fading one of the guys that I'm going to talk about later in the show, and so are you, and Victor Hovland, who, by the way, the last time we saw him was 3rd at the PGA Championship. So what are you doing fading the guy that won here last year and finished 3rd in the most recent start?
Yeah, he had 4 good rounds out of a boatload so far in 2024, so could the simple switch with Joe Mayo be sticky? Absolutely. He obviously won here last year as well. The history before that wasn't fantastic. So I'm willing to suggest he might struggle a little bit with the slight changes that he's made, even though he's saying everything's fine and dandy, and take out the big ownership that he's going to drive. He's probably going to be a top 3 owned player with Morikawa and Scheffler. I'd rather just pay up for Scheffler and eat that ownership because it feels like with him, you're getting minimum top 3 finish, it seems like. So that's the route I choose to go to. If you don't want to, so be it. But I'm out on Vic for that reason. Rust Dog, the Rust Bus Henley, 8,000. Kind of similar to Glover. Same statistical profile, it seems like. Bit of a better putter this year. And it hasn't translated to much results at the Memorial. But I love the way this guy's playing. Seems to have everything going in his bag. A super accurate driver, which you need to be when you don't hit it quite as long. So Henley at 8,000 is a go for me. Tony Finau, 7,900. I think it's a great week to jump in on Tony. 4 top 20s in his last 6 events. And the big thing for Tony, we know what he can do from tee to green. The iron play is fantastic. He hits it a mile. Short game is looking much better. Around the greens, taken a big step, and the putter's been somewhat field average over the last month, which, believe it or not, is a good sign for Tony Finau. So if he can kind of continue up that trajectory, I'm hoping he can get a big result for us. And I think he does have some winning upside this week. And then Denny McCarthy, 7,600. I cannot quit him. I like him more in Gen Pop event fields, but we're going to go with the signature event field for him. Played well at the Quail Hollow. Playoff loser, should have won this event last year. Well, Scotty Scheffler should have won. Then Denny McCarthy should have won. But then Victor Hovland actually won. Had a top 5 finish the year before that as well. I know it's a lot with the putter. The course fit isn't great, but I'm still buying in on Denny at that price.
And I would buy in at that price as well. I'll talk about Denny a little bit later in the show. See, one guy that we are going to talk about in the next segment, which is first round leaders, which I know you were so close on. You hit a big one with Batia the other month in San Antonio. You came so close last week. And now you're going to take a player who Patrick just hated on in Victor Hovland.
I mean, I don't hate the Victor hate. I think it was an interesting justification with, he's playing Scotty up top, which, by the way, I'm probably playing a lot of Scotty too. It makes sense. If you do that, it's hard to get to guys like Victor Hovland. You can do it. And that's, by the way, why I put Lee Hodges on my list and Lucas Glover, because if you're going to put Scotty in your lineups, you're going to have to pay down, not just in one place, not just in 2 places, maybe like 2 to 3 places. That's just how it shakes out, because we don't have a 5K range this week. And so if you're playing Scotty, it's a lot harder this week to play Scotty than it would have been, for example, 2-3 weeks ago. By the way, there's some scuttlebutt in the chat, Patrick, about you having a segment where you sing theme songs. And Rick, you might not have been here last week to hear the Family Ties thing, because Rick Funcannon says Ants Marching for Pat Steve, which of course Dave Matthews Band. But great song. What we're looking for, of course, is like 80s, 90s sitcom theme songs that Patrick likely doesn't know, so that he can step up and sing them, not having any idea. What are you in, Patrick?
Yeah, I'll do that. Just give me the
last segment,
the show, yes. And I'll get the vocal cords ready.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
That's tune that up for your last segment, Patrick. When I go around asking final thoughts, please have a theme song ready to go, if you wouldn't mind.
If anybody missed that and they want me to tag them in the post that I put out like 6 days ago, it's worth it, especially the ending of that post. It's magical. All right, Victor Hovland. Listen, we're talking a lot. If you hear stuff around the industry, and I'm one of these people that's talking about Colin Morikawa a lot, because the game really fits. Like, we'll talk about Colin in a second. I really like Colin Morikawa this week, but I think Victor Hovland's getting a little just sort of understated. And if you look at head-to-head matchups, Morikawa is a huge favorite over Victor Hovland. I like him as a favorite over Victor Hovland, not at the number that it's being sold at like places like BetMGM. But I think Victor Hovland has a chance to repeat. But more importantly, we know he can spike, especially if it's just for one round. I think Victor Hovland's game is largely back. So I like him at plus 2,200. Siwoo Kim, I'm not really playing much this week, but I am playing him in the first round leader market. We've seen the finishes here. He's been excellent here. His putter's been really, really bad lately, but clearly it's pretty good here. And if he's got a good putter for 18 holes, he's certainly viable. By the way, these are all morning tee times. I'm thinking, I don't have a great read on the weather yet. It's going to be windy either way, but I'm thinking morning tee times will enjoy a little bit better luck here. Shane Lowry, another guy I'm not playing in DFS. Well, I might play him in DFS, but I'm not really playing him in the finishing position market or anything like that. But the ball striking's there, and we know he can flash with the putter. So 45-1. And by the way, I think he's a good course fit. He'll keep it in the fairway off the tee. He can dial in with his irons. So I like him at 45-1. And then finally, Keegan Bradley's really been flashing lately. I think he's also a very good course fit. I don't think he can win this tournament, but at 45-1 as a first round leader, I'll hop on board.
All right. See you later in the show. I have some first round leader knowledge for you that is stunning. I had a tip today that is a stunner. So I'm going to give that to you later in the program in the long shots category.
Wow.
Keep that in mind.
Where's this tip coming from?
You think I came up with it? Of course not. No,
absolutely not.
Of course not. No, go ahead, Sia.
Well, okay. 2 things. I just held up a 1, but 2, 2 and 2. That's a Chuck Woolery reference for those of you that are of a certain age. You should have told me whatever this tip was before I gave out my first round leaders. The other thing is, I got to commend you, because approximately 4 to 5 weeks ago, I can't remember, was it the PGA Championship? I think it was. You were like, yeah, guys, I kind of have some inside knowledge here, and I can't really say what it is, but don't play Wyndham Clark this week. And he hasn't been good since. So I don't know what magic you had sort of in the back pocket there, but anytime you have a tip,
pulling the strings out there out west.
You know, exactly. I know a few
dance
things
from me, puppets, dance.
I will tell you this about Wyndham Clark that I can confirm. He does not eat. He has gluten-free bread when he eats his sandwiches and burgers. There you go. So you do with that you do with that as you please. But that I can confirm.
Everything.
There you go. I knew it would. Coming up next, Patrick and I agree. Sia and Patrick agree. It's a lot of synergy going on. But first, let's hear from one of our sponsors.
Football action continues. Are you ready for this? Ready to take chances? As the gridiron is taken over by the Great White North. It's time to storm the fortress. It's time to fight on the battlefield. Catch the Canadian Football League on CBS Sports Network.
All right, I'm going to give you a spoiler alert as to my FRL tip. Over the last 2 years, the same player has had at least a share of the lead after the first round in both tournaments. Does anyone in both Memorial tournaments? And he happened to have won recently as well. Go take a look, and we'll revisit that later in the program. Just want to point that out. Now it's time for matchups where there's a lot of good things happening on this chart. It's rare that we all kind of agree that Sia is not trying to take my money, that I'm not unsuccessfully trying to take Patrick's money. We're all like, we're good this week. So, Patrick, I'm going to start with you. You're picking. Let's hear first of all your pick that it's not shared with me. Start with Colin Morikawa.
Yes, this is a misprice by DraftKings, in my opinion, and potentially fact. Colin Morikawa plus 145 over Patrick Cantlay and Ludwig O. Berg. I understand Cantlay's history here, 1.5 victories. Ludwig playing solid golf, but we haven't seen him since the PGA Championship. So you have some form question mark. It's also Ludwig's debut, so there's some course history question mark with both these guys, you could say. So with Morikawa, you have a guy who's won at this golf course, a guy who seemingly always plays well at this golf course, a great fit, and he's playing some really good golf. At plus 145, that was a very quick click for me. Not much research done. Before the fact, after the fact, confirmed. It's a rare confirmation. And then the next one, we're going Scotty Scheffler, even money, over Rory McIlroy and Xander Schauffele. I wanted something on Scheffler. This is what I found. Rory tends to have these lulls in tournaments, kind of like the second round last week in Canada where he shot 2 over, and that was ultimately his undoing. These stretches of like 6 to 9 holes that kind of just bite him in the butt at the end of the tournament. And then Xander, obviously playing fantastic golf. I mean, all these guys are. But coming off a pretty long break, hasn't cracked the top 10 at Muirfield Village for one reason or another. I think 5 straight top 25s, though. So he plays well around here. I just think Scheffler, despite these 3 guys being a step above everyone, I think Scheffler is still clearly a level above these 2.
I think that's a great explanation. And I agree with you, everything that you just said. So I won't have to explain it. But Sia, let's hear your explanation as to why you like Colin Morikawa this week over the other 2.
Yeah. By the way, there was something in the chat. There was a Wyndham Clark question that I think is really interesting, especially at EC after you drop that news. We'll address it later. But okay, so Patrick kind of answered the question for us, but Patrick Cantlay, again, the play hasn't been good lately. As far as Ludwig, like, we don't know. I mean, it's kind of like Will Zalatoris in a sense, although obviously they're different caliber players right now. We don't exactly know where he's at right now with this knee injury. I don't think it's a significant knee injury, but I don't know if it's kept him off his game or kept him off, playing golf for any appreciable amount of time. It probably has not. But the way Colin, like I need an excuse, right? Like I just like I think Oberg in the outright market is interesting because his number has fallen. But against Colin Morikawa, of all people, who has had 2 fourth-place finishes over his last 2 tournaments, who finished second here 3 years ago, who had to withdraw last year but was playing well before he withdrew. He plays well here. His recent history is great, and he's coming in with better form, certainly than Patrick Cantlay, and arguably better than Ludwig, considering Ludwig hasn't really played much. So I think plus 145 is a really kind of generous number here. I agree with Patrick. I don't think it should be much lower, But I certainly, when I saw the plus 145, even though these are three great golfers, I think Colin is primed to top 5 this tournament. I can't say the same for the other two.
All right, I'm going to roll with Victor Hovland over Xander Schauffele at plus 165. You can find this on Caesars. So Xander, as Patrick mentioned, 7 starts here, no top 10s, and I'm getting the winner of last year's tournament, who just finished 3rd in his most recent tournament. And I know, listen, he lost to Xander there, but at plus 165, I mean, that's phenomenal. Yeah, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take a shot there. It's going to be Victor over Xander. And then for all the reasons that Patrick mentioned, Scotty over Rory and Xander at even money. I mean, Scotty should win this tournament. I will play the outrights in that way. You'll see what I'm doing there, but I think this is great value getting him at even money. Patrick, we had somebody in the chat, Sites 501, wanted to ask thoughts on Wyndham Clark at 45 plus 4,500. Do you like that at those odds for a top 5 player in the world, or not so much?
Well, I think Sia might have one more pick as well to get to.
Oh, sorry, Sia, I cut you off.
No, that's true. No, I should have just kept going with it. Yeah, we'll answer the Wyndham Clark question after this. I like Corey Connors as top Canadian, top in region, top nationality, whatever your sports book terminology-wise has it listed as. The thing is with Corey Connors, and I noticed David Talk likes Tom Kim over Corey Connors for the tournament. I don't hate that play, but I don't like it either. Like, I looked at that matchup. It was a stay away for me. By the way, these 3 balls, that I think most of them, if not all of them, the tournament 3 balls are on DraftKings as matchups sort of trickle out with all the books over the next 24 hours. But Corey Connors, I don't know what to think of him. I do think he's a really good course fit. His history here has been a little up and down, but the cool thing about the top Canadian market is I'm really just fading the other guys. And off the top of my head, we're talking about Mac Hughes, who was great last week, but I don't think is a very good course fit. We're talking about Adam Hadwin, Nick Taylor, Taylor Pendrith, who I think you can make the argument that Taylor Pendrith might be the guy that Corey Connors is most likely to contend with in terms of him actually being a challenge. But I just like Corey Connors better than all of those guys. So at plus 200, it's certainly not a surefire pick, but I think I'm getting a really good number for a really good course fit for a guy who's coming in with really good form and who can be shaky with the short game. But at the Charles Schwab Challenge, he was excellent with the short game, which, hopefully he can continue that stretch. But I think the ball striking should get him there.
Pretty nasty beat if you had Mackenzie Hughes, who I gave out last week on the show as top Canadian, thinking, he's tied for the lead in the final round. Now, I was sweating on the 18th hole, on the 72nd hole, him getting a top 10. He had to hit a 7-footer to maintain a T7. You want to talk about major sweats? Yeah, it was not pretty. That was one of those I'm going to quit betting where a guy's tied for the lead earlier in the round and then not going to finish in the top 10. It's pretty gross. All right, Patrick, back to Wyndham Clark, plus 4,500. Yay or nay?
Nay for me. I have no real interest. I typically have Clark as one of the more overvalued guys on week-to-week basis, and sometimes he bucks that in a big way, obviously, but other times he just crashes and burns, and he seems to be on that trend right now. Maybe he got his game back in order over this last month. He's another guy we haven't seen since that early exit that you predicted, EC, at the PGA Championship. But for now, I'm staying away despite it being maybe a decent course fit.
Every now and then your boy gets one right. Sia Moshe says Tom Kim. What do you think about him? Top something as we head into finishing positions. Do you want to play Tom Kim in matchups? Do you want to play him in finishing positions? Like, what are your thoughts on him this week?
The thing is, Tom Kim's game is really emerging. I wonder if he's long enough to really have the upside required on this course, whether that be with the long irons or off the tee. I do like the state of his game. I noticed the chat really likes. They mentioned Tom Kim, but Ben On obviously is somebody that people are liking as well. Ben On hasn't really been on my radar this week. I'm a little worried about it, and this is the same with Wyndham Clark. I'm really a little worried about their driving accuracy off the tee, but I might be overvaluing that. And, guys like Wyndham Clark or Ben On could, if they can recapture just their general, not Ben On's form is great, but I think they have upside. The reason I've kind of X'd them off is because I'm a little worried about their accuracy off the tee. And I want guys that are long off the tee is great, but I really want guys that are accurate off the tee. Again, I might be overstating the accuracy thing. Maybe guys like Ben On are going to be really good here, but I'm personally not on Ben On. I think the floor is pretty low with him. I do think he has upside though.
Hef, you get my gold star in the chat. Very smart. Davis Riley. We'll talk about him a little bit later in the program. All right, on to finishing position. Sia, you have a trio, top 10, top 20, top 30. You're making it easy for everybody. What do you got?
Yeah, Morikawa, this is an easy one to sell because we've already talked about him. I just love what he's doing with the short game, and obviously we know what he can do with the ball striking. History here is good, like I just talked about. T10 at plus money. Really like that at plus 130. That number is over at DraftKings. Russell Henley T20 at plus 125. I think this one's over at BetMGM. All of these are between DraftKings and BetMGM, by the way. Those are the only places I'm going to do finishing positions because we know FanDuel has that quirky way how they grade ties. Listen, Patrick talked about Russell Henley in the DFS section. He's got a good history here, and he's in really good form, and he's a really good course fit. I think plus 125. It's not necessarily a steal because we don't think of Russell Henley in like a top 10, like a guy with a ton of upside, or even in a top 20 market with all of this talent in it. But he's been playing that way. He's been playing really well. And if you look at the finishing positions, he's neatly tucked inside the top 20 quite often. He just doesn't get the recognition for whatever reason. So I like that at plus money as well. And then Sepp Straka, keep in mind, this is a tournament that features around 70 players, top 50 in ties make the cut. So you're not going to see a lot of good numbers in the top 40 market. So a lot of these are going to be like top 30 plays, top 20 plays. And I think Sepp Straka is another guy that's like a really good course fit. Can be dialed in with the irons, accurate off the tee, and can sometimes get hot with the putter. T30 minus 125. I expect him to be inside the top 25, but I think he has the upside to be a top 10 player. So I'll take the T30 minus 125.
I like it. I'm good with that. I got crazy with this one as I usually do, but last week I had success with finishing positions. Fortunately, thank you, Mackenzie Hughes. Morikawa, I got this one on DK plus 140. They have a with ties section kind of copy in MGM, so good with that. He has 4 top 10s in his last 6. One here, that Workday Charity Open 2020, second in the 2021 Memorial. Technically third. We know about that with the John Rahm COVID thing, but nonetheless, great course history here for Morikawa at plus 140. That's a steal. How about Max Homa? We haven't talked about him yet. Plus 300 with ties for top 10, plus 115 for top 20. In his last 2 here, he's been 6th and 5th, and he's excelled with the putter. And oh, by the way, in the last, 6-8 weeks, T3 at the Masters and in 8th place finish at the Wells Fargo, also tournaments with limited fields. Now, David mentioned in the chat about Denny McCarthy. Yeah, Patrick talked about him earlier in the show, but a top 20 with ties at plus 160 feels like great value to me. If that putter can get going, because the length might be an issue for him here, but 5th and a solo 2nd here in the last 2 years, and he just crushed with that putter, gaining more than 11 strokes last year, which is pretty cool to see. Can he get even, if he's plus 5 strokes with a putter this year, I think we might have a chance. And then I think one of you mentioned Lee Hodges. I think that was you, Sia. I'm going his last 3 tournaments, T24, 12, 12. And oh, by the way, he was 12th here last year at plus 160 for a top 30. Yeah, I'm good with that. All right, Patrick, with what you see on the board here, pick one of these. If I were to give you $100, if Keith Mitchell had won hypothetically, and I said, all right, you can place one of these bets, what are you taking?
I am taking Russell Henley, top 20, plus 125.
Should have known.
I'm riding with Sia. With Sia.
Yeah, I mean, it's smart to ride with me with, whatever. If you want to make these bets and you are not a BetMGM customer, well, you probably should be, because you get these bets with ties. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10 and you'll receive up to $1,500 instantly if your bet loses with bonus code EDGE. That's EDGE EDGE. Coming up next, Scotty Scheffler, no Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, no Rory McIlroy. Easy for me to say. First, let's hear from one of our sponsors.
We need your sports news anywhere.
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
So I didn't look. Really? All right. So we got to have something going on here in the chat. Enough with the auto fate. Like, I thought this was a good idea for a while, but I think clearly the fact that the Zurich counts, which it shouldn't, and then I put Xander on this list the week before he wins. Like, can we take a vote in the chat that maybe kind of sort of could convince Jake that we should retire the auto fade list? Because, I mean, the Scotty Scheffler was bad, ×4, as you can see. All right. Sadly, one of the players on this list is going to be mentioned in this segment. So, Patrick, go ahead. You happen to like one of these guys. Let's hear it and why.
Yeah, I'm rolling with Justin Thomas at 35 2-1. He is a playoff loser at this event, not at this event, at this golf course to Colin Morikawa at that Workday Championship back in 2020. Playing some really good golf after a bit of a lull there in the early spring. Played well in Louisville. And the real catalyst has been not necessarily his iron play, which is good, but he's driving the golf ball a lot better. And if he drives the golf ball like that this week, I think he has a chance to contend. So I will go in at JT 35-1 to win for the first time in over 2 years.
Okay. That would be, if you hit that one, more power to you. Now, Sia, I like where your head's at here. This is great. Morikawa, if I was to add one to my list, you and I are thinking the same thing. I think him at plus 1,100 with these odds, and I think you got that at FanDuel. I got mine at Fanatics. Why do you like Colin at this number without the big three?
Well, by the way, C-May, I want you to know that we have more content for the show. So you might see that. I can't read your comment, but we might see that name that you're referencing later in the show. Yeah, Eric, who calls you Eric? EC.
Not very many people, right? Yes.
I am surprised. Credit to FanDuel. Listen, there's a lot of good sports books. We know we love BetMGM for a lot of different reasons, the finishing position market, the promos, all of those things. But sometimes other books kind of step up and they're giving you the not just winner without Scotty Scheffler market, but they're giving it to you without McIlroy and Schauffele as well. And let's be honest about like the win equity in this tournament. Almost half of it is bottled up with those three guys. And so I'm getting Colin Morikawa at plus 1,100, which is actually kind of shocking to me because some books have Colin as low as like plus 1,400. I even saw it at plus 1,200 somewhere for him. And so I'm taking those three guys out and I'm still getting plus 1,100. This actually dropped from plus 1,000 a point to plus 1,100. I absolutely love it. Listen, I think Colin can win this tournament, but I don't want to take him against Scotty Scheffler. I really don't. And if I can get the chance to, because this number should be plus 1,100 without Scotty Scheffler. That's what the number should be. But if I get a chance to make the bet and I can also take out Rory McIlroy and Xander Schauffele, I mean, obviously that's more for me. So like I have a couple of long shot outrights that we'll get to in a couple of minutes, but this seems to be the time where Colin Morikawa puts it all together.
That's a great pick, Sia. He would be my fourth ad on this list. I'm going to play these from Fanatics. Victor Hovland won here last year. Maybe I'm buying into the new Joe Mayo swing or the old Joe, whatever you want to call it. But he gained more than 10.5 strokes ball striking at the PGA Championship, finished third. Sounds good to me. All right, so Patrick Cantlay's on the do not bet list, but this doesn't really count because I'm not betting him outright. You see how I kind of bend the rules here? So he's won here twice. We know he didn't deserve to win in 2021, but that's fine. But he did do well after that 2020 renovation. So don't give me the whole pre-Jack changed up the course, that whole thing. Four top fours in 7 appearances, pretty darn good. Max Homa I talked about here as well. Plus 30 or plus 3,000. I mean, there's some value there at 30-1. And then I would add Morikawa to this list. I think one of the favorites gets it done. It's much safer though without Scotty, Rory, and Xander. Now, when we go to long shots, I kind of teased it. So I'll just get it out of the way right now. If you've been paying attention, as Hef was earlier, Davis Riley has led last year with a 67. And the year before, he co-led after the first round with 5 other golfers at a 67. And he's now 100-1. So you know what? I never usually play the FRL market, but at 100-1, yeah, I'll take that. And you know what? I'm even going to go one step better. A first round top 10 is plus 650. At DraftKings, yeah, I'm going to take that too. Those are my first 2 long shots. Now, let's move on to Patrick. You're going with some extra winners. Okay, I'm good with this list. I'm good with this. Give us a reason why for each one of them.
Your card on this screen is so
sorry, Jake.
long.
Yeah, sorry, Jake. Sorry about that.
It's just it's like a CVS receipt. I'm rolling with Siwoo Kim 60-1. Sia mentioned his history here. Playing great golf. The putter's a problem, but that's why you're paying 60-1. Hopefully it's better this week, right? Max Homa, you just mentioned. I like him with Scotty Scheffler at 65-1. Ejected at Colonial. He's going to need to drive the golf ball much better this week, but if he does, the rest of his game is in good shape to contend. He's obviously won at big ballparks, long golf courses, difficult tracks, so he can do that here with the history he has. Tony Finau, I'm also buying in on at 66-1. Long hitter, solid history, playing great from tee to green. The putter is trending in the right direction. Needs to take a big leap, but I believe it can. And then Denny McCarthy, 85-1. I can't quit him. I can't quit him. He's going to eventually win. He's going to win this year. I swear to God. And maybe this is the week.
Okay. Well, Grayson Sig isn't in there, so let's go Denny.
Yep.
Is he all right? So Patrick, I ask this every week. So we talk about Cam Young, Tommy Fleetwood, Alex Noren as the best players generally in the PGA Tour without a victory. You got to put Denny McCarthy in that mix as well, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Now, a guy that was on that list for a while, and then he kind of broke through at the end of 2022 is Will Zalatoris. Sia, you alluded earlier that we were going to talk about him. Plus 7,500, especially when at the U.S. Open, he's plus 2,500. Now, those will drift back. I would not recommend betting that line right now unless you think Will's going to win this weekend. Why do you like him this weekend at plus 7,500?
Because it's plus 7,500. I mean, and by the way, this number's at FanDuel. Most books have this in the 60, 65-1 range. So here's the thing. We know Will Zalatoris, from a common core standpoint, he grades out really well. We know he's a great ball striker, traditionally a great ball striker. We know he likes to keep it in the fairway, and he's great with the long irons. Like, we're checking a lot of boxes here already. The problem is the short game hasn't been there, and the ball striking has been a little spotty, but we kind of expected this, right? He had a back injury that he's shaking off. When he initially came back, he was really good, and then a couple parts of his game just kind of fell off. Well, he's had 3 weeks off now. I don't know where the state of his game is. The cool thing about it is nobody knows. But with 3 weeks off, knowing how good he has been at this tournament and how good he is in general, I think it's the best time to speculate on a number like this. So Will Zalatoris at plus 7,500. This is why I like him in DFS as well. He might get a little popularity, but not much, because the floor is very low for Will Zalatoris. But that's why you play him in DFS, and that's why you play him as an outright. You don't play him in a matchup necessarily, because we don't exactly know what we're getting. But if we get the strong side, if we get the upside, then Will Zalatoris at plus 7,500 contending on a Sunday is going to look really, really good. So again, I'm willing to play the low floor because I know the ceiling is very high. Corey Connors, this is an interesting one. I don't think the ceiling is quite as high with Corey Connors. His history here is kind of up and down. It's pretty good, but the iron play has been so good for him. Frankly, the off the tee game hasn't been that great. He hasn't been that accurate, but I'm expecting accuracy. But the iron game has been so good that I think it can mitigate his lack of around the green play. And if that's the case over 4 rounds, I do think Corey Connors has a shot if he can get the putter going at 55-1.
Shout out to my buddy who works at a prominent sportsbook who will remain nameless that gave me the Davis Riley tip. So thank you for that. All right, here we go. Parlay time. Colin Morikawa, Justin Thomas, top 10. Patrick likes Justin Thomas. Fine with me. Plus 650. Find that on DraftKings in those golfer parlays. This one you can find on FanDuel under tournament specials. I'm going to put half my normal wager on this one. Hovland, Morikawa, Ludwig Oberg, top 10. Plus 1,500. I would be careful with how much you bet on that, but if you think Ludwig's fine with that knee, then go for it. And then we're going to do this one, another half the normal bet size, whatever that is. Find this one on DraftKings. Max Homa, Siwoo Kim, Sam Burns, top 20. We haven't talked about Sam Burns. Showed something last week. Almost won Sia that first round leader. But if he can get a top 20 here, plus 1,300, yeah, we're going to make some money. And Siwoo, 4 straight top 20s in the Memorial. Sammy was T16 here last year. Now, we still have more golf to talk about on the show because Liv is in Houston, and I think they're going to factor a lot into the U.S. Open next week. So, Patrick, we'll start with you with Liv. You and I are kind of on the same terms here. We're kind of aligned, which we have been with Liv a few times this year, and usually that's been a good thing. Abe Answer, why are we taking him at plus 2,200?
I took a long look at the man in the mirror. I saw Louis Oosthuizen 22-1 right next to him. And I said, you can't do it again, Patrick. You can't do it. And so I'm going with the answer. 22-1, 5 straight top 10s, I think, maybe 4 straight top 10s, a winner in Hong Kong. This is a golf course that they've played on the PGA Tour for a while, Golf Club of Houston, typically the week before the Masters. He finished top 10, decent history here too. So I'm going to go with answer at 22 and pray that this isn't the week that Louis Oosthuizen finally wins.
All right. So since March, Patrick, I'm going to fill that in. He has gone 12th, 1st, 9th, 9th, 10th. So not bad. 5 straight top 12s. The putter's been great. And he finished T8 here in 2018, as you mentioned. And the fact that he's not going to be in the U.S. Open and not in any of the first 3 majors 2024 is kind of an embarrassment. It's kind of they got to do something about that. Like, this guy, if you win on Live, like, I feel like you should get an exemption into majors. Maybe I'm crazy, but that's just me. But one guy who has won on Live and did qualify yesterday is my guy, Dean Burmester, at plus 2,000. I'm going to continue to bet this guy because in 7 Live events this season, South African has a win, 4 top 10s, and 6 top 20s. Not to mention, he was T12 at the PGA Championship when I think I played his top 20, top 40, something like that. So he made a little bit of money on that. I'm also going to play a parlay here. Find this one at DK. Bryson and Abe Answer, top 10, including ties at plus 300. I'll take that. See if we can make some money heading into the U.S. Open. We got to build that bankroll heading into next week. Sia, we haven't talked about one of the guys who's a top 10 favorite on the odds makers board. That's Tommy Fleetwood. Did you consider him in any bets this week?
No, I mean, it's funny because I obviously had him as an outright last week. And it was partly because the field was watered down. This field isn't watered down. So I think Tommy Fleetwood is actually a pretty good course fit. I don't think I'm breaking any news there, but I'm certainly not taking him in the outright market. And I think you could consider him in the top 20 market, but he goes cold at such odd times. Like, he actually threw himself back into contention last Saturday at the RBC Canadian Open. And then he starts round 4 where, you could see Matt Hughes potentially coming back to the pack a little bit. And we need guys like Sam Burns or Tommy Fleetwood to maybe get on a little roll to start off. And he's like one of the few that double bogeys, the very first hole. It's like anytime I have expectations for that guy, he dashes them very quickly. So nothing on Tommy Fleetwood. I will say this. I don't have a play for Liv, and I didn't do any research, but based on Patrick's answer, I think Louis is going to win this tournament. And I know, I'm serious, by the way. I might even bet it. And I think Paul Casey, who hasn't played well on Live lately, but was playing well earlier in the year, judging by the few things that I know about this course, I think Paul Casey at 40-1 is at least an interesting play. I wanted to drop the little knowledge that I had there.
Is there a chance that we may see a Live play on Early Edge on Thursday or Friday?
Oh gosh, no, not really.
Okay.
It's because I'm not truly not educated enough to give it out. So Early Edge tomorrow, I might have an early sort of round 1 matchup to give out, but usually Thursday and Friday I have round matchups to give out as well. But maybe I'll throw in, to your point, maybe I'll throw in like a live bet on like a top 20 or a top 40 or top 30, something like that.
All right, Patrick, here's a guy that we haven't talked about all show, and he has 5 straight top 20s in the Memorial, including a 5th place finish last year. You know who that is off the top of your head? This is Early Wedge Jeopardy. Nope. This is one Jordan Spieth. What are your thoughts on him?
Drives the ball well.
Okay.
Driving the ball very well. The iron play sucks. It's atrocious. Disgusting. Yuck. So because of that, I will not be involved in Jordan Spieth, but I will say if it flashes any sign of life, I don't need a lot to get over the edge there for Pinehurst number 2.
Hey, I'll say this about Jordan Spieth real quick. I'm not playing him either, but I think there's an argument to play him in DFS because everybody's thinking what Patrick's thinking. So the ownership should be, even though he's got great course history, it should be relatively low. And it is going to be windy. I think maybe all 4 days, not like extreme wind, but it's going to be windy. And if he's good off the tee and if he's like, if nobody's dialed in with their irons because the wind, they're not judging it well, and we have small greens here, and it comes down to putting and around the green play, you can at least make the argument that Spieth, maybe he's good off the tee and maybe he's good with the short game. Maybe that's enough for him to catapult himself back into relevance. So I think in DFS, he's a sneaky play.
All right, Patrick, before we wrap it up, if there was a theme song you were to sing this week, what would it be?
Well, I think Sia is probably the king of the sitcom shows, right? He knows he has a bigger library than I do. So I feel like he should pick and I should try to sing it.
So there was somebody in the chat earlier that said they wanted you, Patrick, to sing the Love Boat theme song, of course, from the 80s, the beloved show from the 80s that I'm sure you watched all the time. So the Love Boat is the name of the show.
Okay. The Love Boat, oddly enough, probably my top 100 sitcoms ever. Yeah. I don't even know if it is a sitcom, but I think it goes something like this. We're on a love boat Ooh, ooh, baby. Riding that love boat in the water. There's Hootie and Jody and the rest of the gang on the love boat, baby. Ooh. What do we think?
It's very good. Bravo,
Was it
my
close?
friend.
What more do you say? How do we end a show better than that? I
Was it
mean,
close?
It was
On the
actually
love
like
boat, baby.
almost like the exact tune and pace of the Love Boat. Almost the exact
Wow.
word. Yeah.
what other golf show can you find where one of the hosts sings something, whatever that was? But hey, he's got a better voice than I do, so no argument here. I want to thank producer Jake, who does a great job behind the scenes. For Sia Nejad and the talented singer, one Patrick McDonald, I am Eric Cohen. And as I always like to say, let's hit it big. Good luck.
Yeah.